How's it going, friends? In this episode, I talk with founder and CEO Kyle Dirksen about the new Onewheel Pint S that we just released, the firmware that's making its way to the Pint X platform, as well as all of the new products, innovation that's happened over the last couple months. It's been a lot, so stay tuned and hope you enjoy. Welcome, everybody, to the Onewheel Podcast. We went on vacation, had a brief hiatus from doing podcasts, but we're back in a major way. Jack and Kyle here.
We are back.
Kyle, do we have any news to talk about today?
So much news.
Yeah.
Let's start with the oldest or the newest?
Let's start with the newest. So we got a brand new Onewheel Pint S sitting right here. Super exciting. So launching Pint S today as of recording this podcast. Vibes are very high. This thing is awesome. Take us back to like the why, I guess, on what we're trying to achieve in creating this little ripper.
Totally. I mean, obviously the Pint line has always been about making just tiny shred bots that are too fun.
Yeah.
And starting with the original Pint back in 2019, which got a lot of new people into one-wheeling, which is amazing. And then Pint X leveled up the range so you could go places.
Yeah.
And then, but then it's been a little bit stalled out since then, and I think a lot of people are like, oh, pints are cool, they're small, but like, I don't know if they can really go where I want. Like, I don't know if they have enough power. I wish the top end was a little bit, higher. So we listened. We listened to that feedback and took it upon ourselves to, build all that into something cool.
Totally.
And so that led to the Pint S. Obviously we spent a bunch of our time over the last year working on the high end of the high end, right? Yep. With the GTS series, with the Recurve, the Rally,
FST, 6-inch. There's a long list. Yeah.
So much stuff up there for the enthusiasts, for the prosumers, for the people that are, hardcore competitors, racers. But it was kind of time to come back to the pint. It's like the people's champ, I think we say on the website.
The people's, it totally is. I was going to say, so are pints still by number the most common one wheel in the world?
Yeah, they definitely are.
Yeah.
So anyway, all this innovating that we've been up to,
yeah.
It was time to bring that down to the Pint platform.
Right.
So the tire, is really what we finally sorted out on the GT Performance Treaded. Shrunk that down to the pint size.
And I heard
changes everything.
I was actually very surprised to hear this, or somewhat surprised to hear this, but I was talking with Neil the other day, and he said this is his favorite performance treaded tire. He says his favorite tire he's ridden.
Yeah.
And so, he actually prefers it over the other performance treaded tires, which I'm not exactly sure like why that is. I know it's like I don't know why that would be, but like it does feel phenomenal. It feels really good.
It adds a little bit of stability to the Pint platform, right? The Pint tires have always been super round, super maneuverable.
Yeah.
And this is like a little bit more flat across the profile.
Okay.
Still very, arched, but not as much as the Pint. And so it actually kind of slows down that heel toe a little bit.
Right.
Plus then you've got wider foot pads.
And it's a durometer. I mean, it's the same thing as the other ones. It's like softer durometer, thinner sidewall.
Exactly.
Eats some of that.
Exactly. So great for off-road, which Pints, have not really been off-road machines.
Totally.
And now, it's going to be interesting to see where people take them.
I was riding one 2 days ago while we were filming a little comparison video of all of the Pints now, because we got 3 in the line. And I was absolutely floored at how it felt riding it off-road.
Yeah.
Not just because, a little bit of a bigger platform with the foot pads, the tire feels unbelievable, but also I think subtly the firmware improvements with like the chatter, riding over chatter, all those things that we spent so much time developing on the high end, that have been brought down. Like, you are riding on this terrain that you're used to riding. I'm used to riding now on an S series, and it's like you forget that you're riding a Pint while you're on it. Because in my mental model, like, that's not how Pints feel.
Yeah.
In that
scenario. I mean, the biggest story with this is really the firmware improvements we made. You know, we went back to the Pint X firmware, and this thing is based on the Pint X platform.
Right.
And we, totally redid it, basically.
Totally, yeah.
And, there were times where I'm like, man, like, why are we back to, like, solving problems that we had sorted out in, like, 2019,
Right.
But it's like, because we went, back to basics, and really, we're taking all the stuff that we've added recently on S series, on GT, into here, but also retuning it to, like, get the most that we can, basically, out of the whole powertrain that we have. So it's totally different, basically.
Well, I think that's a very good point, because I think if you're sitting at home and you have Pint X, you might be like, you're fired up that you're getting this update. Yeah. Obviously, like, that's exciting for everybody. But you might be thinking, like, hey, I've had this for a year or two. Like, how come I wasn't, getting this firmware a little while ago? And I think the thing that is important to understand is, like, this took months. Literally, like, I don't know, 70. I saw outside, the other week, they have a little piece of tape on the fender, and it says, like, 68 or then 68 and 69 and 70. It's like over 70 versions of this firmware, going back for months and months of time. Like, if you ask the Silvas, they've been
totally
locked here for a long period of time, so
tons of hours and miles of test riding, and all those things that you're mentioning, drops, jump landings, transitions, chatter, uphill, downhill,
going up curves, going down curves.
Yeah, everything is just a lot more dialed in than it's ever been on the Pint platform. So it's just really cool.
And I think also, for me, like, just that feeling of, like, power and torque. Like, I don't know exactly how that works, but it definitely feels a lot, punchier and sort of snappier. How does that work?
How does that work?
Well, like, because
I mean, it's a control system, right? And there's all these parameters, and you can kind of dial them up and down, and it's not just one control system, but it's layers of control systems. Controlling the motor, controlling the balance, controlling the angles.
Right.
And so what we're chasing is basically, how do you make it as punchy as you can? Within what you have to work with, right?
Right.
And so, I think we've really achieved that with this. And then one of the other cool things that was highly debated, pretty much everything about this board was highly debated.
Sure.
Let's just go back to some of the hot debates. The foot pads, there were some hot debates about whether, the flared foot pads should be stock.
I'm so thankful that the flared foot pads made it on the boat. It goes back to when I was, riding on the trail here the other day. It's like, I'm just glad I'm on them.
Yeah.
When I have them, I'm glad I'm on them. And so,
the little bit of extra width that you get really does give you more leverage and makes it a lot easier to stay, literally on the board when you're riding off road.
Right.
And the tip and tail kick, has always been, like, very minimal to non-existent on Pint, and so this is a lot more. So it's not as big a platform, as GT, but it's a lot bigger than Pint.
Yeah, totally. Was the other hotly contested thing you were going to say about making the firmware available to everybody, or?
Yeah. So this is a big debate, right? So we spent all this time building the firmware for this, and it's awesome, right? And it's like, okay, great. So it goes on there. And then we're thinking, well, it runs on the Pint X platform. Like, should we just make it available? Should people, is it a paid upgrade? Like, how does that all work?
Your Tesla, can't you pay a couple $100 to go faster or something?
Yeah, different cars now, you can buy, like, software, upgrade, stuff. But, at the end of the day, we decided, like, we're just going to roll it out as a free upgrade. So anyone with a Pint X can upgrade to this firmware. And, obviously tire foot pads, you can also buy them, if you want to upgrade your Pint X and, build your rig.
Right.
And so I think that's going to be amazing for folks that, that they're, either they're riding their Pint X every day and they could be like the world's going to turn from black and white to color, or, it's been kicking in the garage because they always thought the ride could be a little bit, like you say, punchier, versatile. Sure. Dust off your Pint X that's in your garage and, give it a rip on the new firmware.
But you should probably buy some bigger foot pads and honestly buy the tire too.
They're big upgrades.
They're big
sure.
upgrades.
So probably going to be a couple weeks before there's a over-the-air update for the Pint X, but we'll have it out there as soon as we can.
Yeah, that's huge. I think personally, of all of the firmware updates, I know the GT firmware update that we released earlier this year was pretty big time. Gradient tracking was obviously like a marquee update recently, but in my opinion, of all of the updates, going from, if you're a Pint X owner, when you get to smash that button and update your Pint X to this firmware, I think it might be the biggest update. I think it might be the biggest black and white to color moment.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's really.
And plus, you get custom shaping on Pint.
That's a great point
for the first time.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
and we went to a slightly different custom shaping, too, right? We went to kind of like an old school, like kind of a hybrid actually. Like you have the sliders, right?
Yeah.
But then you also have like the some of the trick oriented features with the 2-zone, 1-zone foot pad and whatnot. So I think that's very appreciated from some of the more freestyle-y people. Yeah. Okay. So who do we think? Who is this for? I guess is my next question. Like, yeah, who do you think is a Pint S person?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of key, demographics.
Sure.
One is definitely the person who's getting into one-wheeling,
Sure.
right? For the first time, as their first board. They don't want to get something they're going to quickly outgrow, but they also aren't quite ready to splurge their way up to the S series.
Sure.
So this is a great starting point for that.
Totally.
And in some ways, it's, I would say, easier to learn than the Pint or the Pint X because of the wider foot pad and the tire that kind of
Totally
is a little more stable. Is better at lower pressures and stuff like that. So I think a bunch of people are going to be getting in on that. We had some Groms riding this thing. They were like losing their minds.
It was incredible. That was so much fun. Yeah. Never ridden a one wheel before, and by the end of the day, they're like bonking and. I mean, yeah, they were super. They were the future. They were, really, really good. And it's also, it always brings me so much joy to see how much fun a 15-year-old kid has on a one wheel. It's like, oh, we're doing a great thing here.
Totally. Yeah, and then I think the other group of people that's going to be fired up about it are people who already have, other one wheels. Maybe they have the bigger, the GT, the GTS series. They want to build the quiver and have something that's, just as fun, basically, but for the, round town mission or the extra board to give to their friend when they come over. Like,
totally.
This is the perfect sweet spot for that.
I mean, really, we made this for Tyler.
We made it for Tyler.
That's really what we did.
We hammed that up a little bit in the launch video, but
but
it wasn't a significant, exaggeration.
It's loosely based on a real story. Tyler's always ripping his Pint X around, but he's always complaining because he wants it to be faster and zippier and as safe as possible.
Yeah, I mean, he is obviously one of the fastest and most insane riders out there, and has access to every one wheel ever created, in any configuration, and yet that's his go-to, right? And that his ask is always a little bit more top end speed, and a little different, tire and stance setup. But keep it small, keep it nimble. So.
Totally. And now he's like, gassed up about riding this out on trails too. Like you look at some of the footage of him zooming around on the trails and like absolutely ripping. Adam Laser, who's behind the scenes today, he was asking me about an employee discount on one of these because it really is like, a lot of people really love that Pint riding dynamic, which just is like snappy and maneuverable and fun. And this is just it strikes a nice balance where it's like a little bit bigger with the pads, tires so good, and then the firmware just like really gets it to where you wanted it to be, it's a great quiver board. For me, like back of the trunk board, I guess the trunk is always in the back of the car, but throw it in the trunk board. Like I'm a bigger person, and I do like a little bit, like I like a bigger platform, than what the Pint and Pint X bring. And this is an amazing trunk board for me. This might go in the back of the Mazda 3.
And when you throw it in the trunk, you need the car holder. I think it's the most slept on accessory we've ever made. Car holder? Oh my gosh.
I completely disagree, but that would be a good segment.
All right, we can arm wrestle over whether it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I do think it's essential if you're going to put Onewheels in your trunk.
I completely disagree, and that's because the best accessory ever made is clearly the freaking tire inflator. And that's what you get if you order one of these. Hopefully by the time we push this podcast out, you can still have a chance to order one and get a tire inflator. I believe that's going to end Sunday. Hopefully it's Sunday night, in which case maybe you guys have a shot.
Yeah, so launch special on this thing, free tire inflator with every purchase.
Adam Savage's favorite accessory too, I should say. I'm in good company.
I think people love that because it goes beyond just one wheel, right? Like you can use it on your bike, you can use it on your car.
The tire inflator is awesome. I was joking with Adam earlier today. Yeah, like use it on your bike, use it on your car. Like I don't know, my football, my basketball, or whatever. Like I would need that thing all the time.
Yeah.
We were joking that the tire inflator should be about $1,000, and you're getting this thing for basically $400.
Pint S.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. The tire inflator is that valuable. Anyways, tire inflator. If you can get one of these in time, killer deal. I mean, in terms of other things to hit, I would just say, obviously we shot a lot of the photography in New York City. That was an absolute blast. This is also literally the best thing that you can own if you live in New York City or you're just getting around any city, because it is small enough where we're on like a, 8-story building. You're like walking up the stairs every day. I don't want a GT. I don't want a GTS. But we only had 2 or 3 of these when we were there, and there was like a crew of us of 5 or so, and we're just fighting for who gets to have these boards because of the upgrades. So
totally. I mean, that was a cool full circle moment, right? Because we launched the Pint in New York back in 2019.
Yeah.
And to be back, 5 years later with this thing.
A sick one.
A super sick one.
Yeah.
A little less playful, the all black everything is a little, like.
Sure. I think of the what are they? Fiats? No. In the Italian Job when they're in those little cars.
Totally.
What are they? Is it Fiat?
Something like that, yeah.
And they're just ripping through the alleyways and it's a Mini Cooper.
Yeah.
I think so.
One of those little European cars.
Yeah. That's what this is. Who wouldn't want that? So anything else to hit? Any other questions on the Pint S?
I mean, I think the big thing is just, as people start riding it and they get to, see what it is we've been talking about, and then they'll just be like, oh, okay, I get it now. Yeah.
It's just fun. Yeah. That's what it is. It's just, and honestly, $1,400 is a pretty compelling price point. I mean, really, like, that's what we've done over this year, right, is like baked in more value for riders at home, right? It's like, $1,400 was the Pint X price point. That, we put that on sale with the 10-year anniversary special. If you bought one, you're not bummed because you're getting all of this goodness anyways, right? But Pint X is staying at $1,100, which is fantastic as well, right? And then this basically slots in at the same price the Pint X was, a year ago, but you're getting like.
Does a lot more.
Yeah, you're getting a lot. So I'm pretty pleased that we're able to do that. Okay, so we've done quite a bit. I just joked that we've done 3 years of development in the last like 6 months. So I have a list here because it's been a minute since we've done a podcast and we haven't talked about the FST system that we released.
Yep.
Very controversial.
Yeah.
But pretty sick. The Rally Edition, kind of a big deal. Very, very, very sick. 6-inch hub for GT. Almost forgot about that one.
Yep.
Modular controllers, batteries, motors, and an owner's portal.
Yeah.
Flared pads for GT, flared pads for Pint. We might have done a podcast since the trade-in program. And then also the cleaning kit. So let's start there. What are your thoughts on the cleaning kit?
I say just keep it clean, you know.
Your word stays. You keep yours pretty
I keep
clean.
it clean.
Yeah, I appreciate that. No, but yeah, that's a lot to go over. I mean, how have we been able to do all that? I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've just been going for it.
Yeah, totally.
You know, I think some of these things, like the ideas were around a little bit, you know, earlier.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, this year we've just been focused on, you know, getting stuff out the door and getting it under people's feet. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been really cool. Obviously, building out the footpad ecosystem a lot. The flared,
Yeah.
you know, even without FST, like the flared pads, super popular. You know, any amount of extra width just like really changes the, you know, heel toe feeling,
Totally.
like way more than you think it would if you haven't tried it.
Totally.
So I think that's why those have been really popular on the GT and the S series platform.
And soft options for those
Yeah,
as well.
with soft
too.
options too. And then similar to Pint, which we already talked about a bit because they're stock on the Pint S, but you know, the flared footpad for Pint does totally, you know, change the feel of Pint as well. It makes it feel like a bigger board without
Yeah.
being a bigger board.
Yeah.
And also without getting heavier. Like that's another thing we didn't really mention on, you know, the Pint S riff. It is, you know, one of the best things about the Pint platform is it is just lighter weight. So both when it's under your feet and when you're carrying it upstairs, like that matters. So
Totally.
yeah, FST. We can talk FST.
I was gonna say, what's your stance on foot holding contraptions? I mean, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. I mean, I think to me, what's interesting about FST is like how configurable it is to set up a stance that you want, like where you want your feet.
Yeah.
But also like how engaged you want to be, you know, with the with foot pads. Like, you know, do you want just like an end stopper so your foot doesn't fall off the back of the pad when you're
Right.
bouncing over chatter, or do you want like stuff that really overlaps your foot and locks you in there more? Because I think that's just a big, you know, personal preference question, you know,
Totally.
and I don't think there's one right way. And clearly there's not one right way because it's like a heated debate everywhere you look, you know, and obviously you see that in like other board sports too, right? Like, you know, surfing, windsurfing, kiteboarding, like there's always like the pro foothold people and the anti, you know.
Totally.
And at some point they diverge enough to really be like almost different sports, you know, because
Right.
you can just do totally different things.
Totally.
So yeah, I think I'm really interested, like combined with the, you know, the power of particularly like the GT S series, and you know, then with positive engagement on your feet, like we're going to see way more rotations in the air and just like bigger features that people, you know, hit and actually land.
Right.
That just wouldn't have been possible before. So
Yeah.
and that's cool, you know, because to me, like the North Star around this stuff has always been snowboarding, right? And you watch people blast out of the half pipe and, you know, spin seemingly forever now. Those little kids that are in the Olympics now,
Yeah,
the X
totally.
Games, you know, it's like insane.
18 rotations.
Yeah, so you know, it'll take us a while to catch up with them, but you know, we got to be on the road.
Gotta make it lighter, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know, I think the FST system is super cool for the exact same reason that you do. Like it's super modular. If you just want a little influence, you know, like a reference point, it's there. Not necessarily like the full deal. You know, I got some flack. Basically, I kind of make the call on race to the rail and what the rules are, TBH. And I was expecting more flack than I got for holding out on footholds from race to the rail. I think there's a silent majority, to borrow a political term, of old, or what was it?
I think that's what it is.
Okay, yeah. I just appreciate this pure skill that's on display without the foothold. It's obviously harder, right? Mm-hmm. The foothold, there's no doubt that the foothold gives you an advantage, and obviously, a lot of people.
It depends a lot on the terrain too, right? Like,
sure.
There's a certain level of chunkiness that it becomes a requirement.
It becomes it's very, very helpful. But I don't know. There's something about that purity that I love in a racing sense. If you're, if you have more fun with footholds, you should definitely ride with them. Yeah. But I also like to be the contrarian, it's, just because we're, selling the product,
keep it minimal.
But
yeah, I think, it's really cool how it's also a system, where there's so many different, I don't know if we ever did the math on how many billion configurations there are with how many different pieces you can put together, right? Like, you can get FST and not even use the foothold and just use the extra traction, that's available, which could be pretty smart.
That's a thing that Adam Laser would do, probably.
Yeah.
I heard, we have to have at least one leak on our first podcast back in 6 months. I heard that they might be working on a little camera mount for that system. I don't know if that's true or not.
Working on some things.
It seems like why wouldn't you?
It's a system. You gotta build the system.
Why wouldn't you? I want a coffee holder.
Oh yeah.
I want the gimbalized coffee holder that we talked about, years and years ago. It just needs to be a 5 foot, rod with a gimbal. You just slot that in.
We'll get right on that.
Anything else in that parent? Modular. It's funny. I feel like modular repair was the hottest topic for years in the one wheel world.
Totally.
And for a long time we said, oh yeah, we see you, we hear you, we're working on it. We want to, make a modular repair more possible, on one wheels. Then we came out with modular repair, and now I don't hear anything about it. Which is a good thing, obviously. But any notes there?
Yeah, obviously, maybe not obviously. I say obviously, but maybe it's not obvious.
Yeah.
You can now repair any of the modules of, any current, in the market one wheel product.
Right.
And you can also get replacement individual component parts,
tons
down to, wires and, bolts and things of that nature. Gaskets. So there's a lot of stuff. If you haven't gone to the, the parts section of our website in a minute, go check it out, because there's a lot of parts.
Incredibly, if you want to do it yourself.
Yeah. And then, the modular repair is a little bit more complicated. You got to go through the owner's portal. You can replace your controller module. You can replace your battery module. You can obviously replace your motor.
It's not obvious.
Oh, it's not obvious. It's not obvious. But yeah, that was a huge project,
totally.
Because I think, ultimately, the reason it's been, we didn't have it sooner is because, we didn't plan, from the beginning to have it be that way. We kind of knew we wanted to,
right.
But there were way too many other things to, sure. Sort out along the way of, how do you make one wheels and get them into the world?
Yeah.
Now we've got that all worked out. If people need repairs or also, just things like the battery module, right? It's kind of interesting now. So, obviously lithium batteries, the more you use them, they don't charge as much as they used to. And the smaller the pack, the more that impact is, right? Because if you have, say, a pint, right, you're probably running it to low battery fairly routinely, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you have a GT, like I've got a GT, I don't even remember the last time I charged it. So yeah, maybe it's not broken, but maybe you just want to get back to having that full range, right? You can either, do a modular repair of your battery, or you can also send it in, and we'll do a battery
get
swap for you.
Yeah.
So you got options.
Totally. Yeah. So that's super exciting as well. Not to be glanced over, because I think it's a huge win, obviously, for all the people that were really advocating for that, and for us. I think everyone's very happy about that.
I think, and but not everybody knows that you can do that now. So tell your friends.
Yeah. Totally. Absolutely. I mean, we haven't even talked about the Rally Edition, but I think that's like maybe I don't know. It's unbelievable, I would say. To me, the way that I think about the Rally Edition. If you haven't ridden a Rally Edition, go find your friend. Like you got to go get on one of those. Or just a Onewheel GTS series in general.
Yeah.
But I guess
the
Rally
GTS series is already a lot, and then it's sort of like
totally. I think it is the promise of Onewheel fulfilled, is how I think about it. It's like when you think about what Onewheeling could be in your brain, like how awesome it could be, that is what the Rally Edition is. That's how I experience it. I'm like, this is doing everything I want it to do. I am the limit here, like I'm never like, I wish like I could just like,
I mean, especially for trail riding, right?
Especially for trail
riding.
And
then especially for like up and downhill, where like, I feel like when you're on a flat, like the Onewheel experience has been pretty good for a while, but once you get into more, elevation change, you're like, oh, I could really use some more oomph to like get up the hill and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And now with like the S series, you're cruising.
Absolutely cruising. Yeah, to watch Neil Bennett ride the Rally Edition on those, it's like some trail he'd been wanting to ride for a long time. It was like a rhinoceros, he's just like airing these, little things. It was.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally trails that were not rideable before are now totally rideable and fun. So
unbelievable.
That's the kind of progression that, is exciting for this sport.
Absolutely.
Speaking of sport, we didn't even talk about Race to the Rail.
Race to the Rail. That happened too, yeah. Obviously, Rachel Cecil, 3-time back-to-back champion on the women's side.
So dominant.
Dominance. Just a great.
I thought this might be the year.
Great competitor.
Someone would just, jump out from behind a tree and just win it.
She's got her routine. She's got her mindfulness. She's got her like stretching and meditation, and I think she's just a dialed competitor.
She's got a whole team behind her too.
And she's got a team.
Like her family and friends and stuff. Super supportive.
Big congrats to Rachel. And
I got to be up there for the qualifying day this year, which is great.
That's right.
Been a couple years that other commitments have kept me away, but super rad to just fist bump the racers and
everyone was fired up.
See how everybody was doing out there, and it was great. I mean, obviously a couple upsets in the elimination round there.
True.
It was surprising.
Very surprising. Yeah.
But that's racing.
It makes it exciting.
Yep.
I liked the format. There's some more changes that I am excited about rolling out next year.
Yeah.
I think every year it's important to have a couple wrinkles, because otherwise, like, what are we doing here?
And then see Austin.
Yep.
Holding giant check. That was cool.
Big congrats to Austin. His first win. Really, like, that's
so deserved.
So deserved. No one puts in more than Austin. Personally, on like his, in terms of practice and preparation and stuff, but also just like Austin's fingerprints are all over a lot of the products and firmware that we've been pushing out. So
totally,
his presence is felt.
Yeah.
By one-wheelers all over the world, which is cool.
And it was interesting too to see like the use of digital shaping, right? And the sort of like that was a key part of the setup and the strategy, you know, like, oh, I'm going to set it up in a way that's like a little more challenging or maybe even a little slower in a certain section, but because I need it to perform this way in another section, it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, he had like behavior that he wanted at the bottom of the hill that he had to like hedge for for the top of the hill.
And everybody had their own like kind of approach they were using.
Yeah.
I saw some people, you know, like sharing their shaping after the event because people were interested, so.
Yeah, we were talking about like a Patreon or maybe just like a side channel for like the super core folks who want to listen to 45 minutes of Austin talking about his shaping profile. We might have to fire that up. Maybe hit the comments if that's you and you want to go even deeper into that type of world. But yeah, that super fun event always. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. It's amazing to see these people zooming down the hill. And you got all their helmet cams and some cool capture this year. So
which model were each racer?
So they actually got to choose their model of S. So everyone was on an S. Some people were on. Connor Chappell was on a dead stock S series. I think he's the only person on a dead stock S series, but he did pretty good out there actually. You know, and then
I talked to him about that. And yeah, it's just he's like, this is what I know.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Cecil was on straight rails.
Rachel Cecil's on straight rails. I think Austin was on a rally probably. I think about 3/4 of the competitors were on a rally edition, and then some people were on some straight rails and whatnot. So. But yeah, I mean that was exciting too because it's first S year. I think next year we got to do some uphill probably.
For sure.
I think we're ready for that. Yeah, well, it's an exciting time as it always is here in the one wheel world. If you're a one wheel rider.
We didn't even talk about the hybrid fender domes.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the hybrid fender domes. I left that out of my list.
Sticker pack? But okay, let's talk about hybrid fender domes.
Sloth tee.
Sloth tee, man, we got a lot to talk about. The hybrid fender domes colors look sick.
Yeah.
You know, like I think they look pretty decent online, but in real life they look super sick.
They do look good.
And
we have a couple
easy
right
on,
over there,
easy
honestly.
off.
The hybrid fender is maybe the most slept on accessory.
So good.
Because you can just take your fender off and clean all the crap out of there and then slap it back on. And
it holds on so strong.
It holds on great. Yeah, we threw one down a hill, obviously, once. Hybrid fender, yeah. I would be remiss not to mention that, so thank you.
Got to talk about the hybrid fender.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then some of that merch, stickers, shirts. There's all kinds of stuff that's new. And I think I've seen some new stuff too that's waiting to come out. I think that excites me as well personally. It's brewing.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess in summary, this thing's awesome. You gotta get yourself on one. Pint X firmware update will get. The Pint S performance firmware in, we're saying 2 weeks, depending on when this podcast is released. Might be a little bit less than that. So that's really exciting for Pint X Nation out there. If you're on a Pint, we hope you're having a great time. I'm sure you are. Might be time to upgrade though. This is pretty solid. Laser's showing us
One Wheel Pocket Tee is only $10.
Wow, special of the day. One Wheel, and it's made out of a nice material.
One Wheel Hockey Beanie, $10.
There's some deals.
There's
definitely some deals on our site. Yeah, if you go click on sale and go see some of those deals.
$10 for the pocket tee is.
They're shocking.
That's better than shocking. It's better than what you're gonna find at Gap.
Double black one wheel sling pack, $90 down from $225, made of recycled materials.
The sling pack down to $90.
$90, double black one.
Which is what we use when we're ferrying around next gen products. It's actually incredibly helpful.
$18.
The one wheel mat. I love the one wheel mat.
Bro, Pock helmet's $72. What's going on?
Pock helmet's the best helmet in the game.
Deals.
The bottom of our website has a lot going on there. So, anyways, yeah. Thanks for listening. I think the summary is this thing's sweet. Its firmware's available for Pint X soon here. That's freaking awesome.
This afternoon, what are we doing this afternoon?
We're making some hot dogs, and anyone who wants to come ride one of these is coming by. So,
which is so awesome, you know, because I think like obviously historically, like we launch new products, you got to wait like 6 months or something till they show up at your door.
Good point.
Now, like people are gonna be riding them today.
You can ride today and get a free hot dog and get a free tire inflator if you played your cards right.
It's just insane.
If you played your cards right. And then, as we mentioned, all kinds of other pretty insanely rad, high-level stuff for people that take their one-wheeling incredibly seriously. If you're just trying to take it kind of seriously and have a great time, though, Pint S has got you covered. Anything else?
I think it's time to ride.
Let's freaking go. Later, everybody.